Good afternoon, Dr. Steer. Thank you for being with us today. As the head of the WRI, the World Resources Institute, you guys have a very, very long history of proud accomplishments in terms of protecting the world's resources. What would you cite as your proudest accomplishment during your tenure?
We've been around 35 years now. I've only been there 5 years. But even from the beginning, we were heavily involved in some important global issues. So, for example, the creation of the Global Environment Facility was something that WRI originally had that idea. The lead up to the original Rio Earth Summit, we helped a lot of the design of that. So too the Millenial ecosystem assessment, where for the first time we convened the world's leading experts to really struggle with the value of ecosystems. And more recently, for example, we run something called the Greenhouse Gas Protocol. 15 years ago, nobody really could agree on how to measure greenhouse gases. Well, now 92% of the Fortune 500 companies use our protocols to report on their greenhouse gases. And more recently than that, for example, we've been the managing partner of the Global Commission on the Economy and Climate, which has really been trying to sort of ask the question, can we move from today's high carbon, low efficiency world economy to tomorrow's high efficiency, low carbon world economy in a smooth way that creates jobs and promotes more growth. And so President Calderon, one of our board members, has been chairing that. And now we have Paul Pullman of Unilever and Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala from Nigeria and Lord Nicholas Stern. They're now taking that forward, co-chairing that. So these are the kinds of things we do. We have a little motto that is count it, change it, scale it. We're very good at counting. Every day we bring billions of data points off satellites, for example, so that, for example, you can see every single week down to 1/10 of a hectare, you can see a deforestation taking place anywhere on the Earth's surface. So we're very good at counting, we're very good at analysis. But nobody in World Resources Institute gets a prize for good analysis. You get a prize for when that analysis is used by decision makers to get change.
Today we're actually at the Global Restoration Council Summit, the GPFR meeting. What are some of the key outcomes you'd like to see come out of this? You have a lot of key actors in the room, your partners, and how has it been going, and what would you guys like to achieve?
Landscape restoration is an amazing potential. 2 billion hectares in the world used to be forests. Now they're degraded. They don't really have much ecological value, almost no economic value. It is the most shocking waste of resources that humanity has ever indulged in, quite frankly. The rates of return of doing it right are huge. Every dollar that you put in to landscape restoration can get you $7 to $30 back. And it's not only that it helps the climate or helps the environment, it helps food security, it helps poor people's incomes. It's just altogether a good thing. And yet, very little has been done seriously in terms of real investments. And now that's changing. All of a sudden, we now have 160 million hectares that have been committed by about 50 countries to be restored. So that's really very impressive. That's up from just 20 million hectares just 4 years ago. So we're starting to see this rise on the international agenda. But if you look at that, still how much money is going in. You know, it's been estimated that, say in 2015, there was $128 billion of public money going into climate change. A lot of money, 128 billion. Of that, only 7 billion went into anything to do with rural space. And much less than that went into landscape restoration, even although we know that all that we have to do on climate change, more than 1/3 can be achieved by landscape restoration and by protecting forests. So the need is great, the opportunity is huge, but we're still not putting anywhere close to adequate resources. So today's meeting, which brings together the Global Restoration Council, is to ask the question, how do we, now we're learning so much, how do we make sure that we can really take that learning and we can inject it into a new narrative that will appeal to politicians, to corporations, to the financial sector, and so on. How can we really, as a community, get our act together and cross that positive tipping point, which is very close, we believe, but the risk is that things can rise up the political agenda, but then they can fall off again. And at the moment, restoration has risen quite rapidly up the agenda. We have to make sure we seize this moment.
What does the Global Landscapes Forum mean to you? Why do you believe it is a good platform for igniting change or accelerating some action?
When you have a movement in the making, which we have now in landscapes, it's terribly important that those who are involved, from the academic researchers to the financiers to those on the ground actually doing the work, it's terribly important that we become a genuine team and learn from each other. Also, when you've got a complicated issue like landscapes, it's very, very important that we work together to agree on a narrative. People perceive this to be a very complicated area. And quite frankly, there are even some competing kind of elements where some groups are trying to raise more money than other groups and so on. And so we've just got to take our flags down totally and be a genuine team.